I'd like to explore the topic of parent-child relationships as it pertains to the development of self, of becoming the best version of yourself and having the ability to kind of, particularly for our Gen Zs and all of the challenges that they face, how do you sort of step in and become that version of yourself before you start working? What does that journey look like and what's the sort of reality that's playing out? I'm joined by Adam, who joined us a little while ago with Dana, just around a conversation around Gen Z. So Adam has kindly rejoined us today for another conversation. Adam, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I won't get you to reintroduce yourself, but safe to say you are right smack bang in the Gen Z generation.
Yes.
Kind of working it out for yourself and how it all works. Still at uni?
Still at uni, yep, having a good time.
Doing some work, out there.
Yep.
I know you work with a lot of young folk,
yes.
Adam. One of the jobs that you have is, you've tutored throughout, your teens. I think you tutored.
Yeah, I did math and English tutoring.
Right, because you're a semi-brainiac. And you've also been working with young folk to try and help them be ready for the challenges of study and those sorts of things.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about it.
So at the moment I work as a study skills coach. So we teach skills like time management, memory skills, note-taking, mindset and motivation, well-being, exams, etc. And the reason I wanted to get into this job is because in my experience during school, these things weren't available for me. And no one told me how to manage my time. No one told me how to take notes. No one told me how to do these things. You're expected to know it. And if you don't know how to do it, then you sink. It's either sink or swim. And if it's innately in you, sure, then you succeed. And if not, then you fail. So I never reached my potential in school. And that really affected my psyche, honestly, as a young man now. So I really want to do my bit and understand how can I help young people develop those skills, because these aren't just skills for being young, like time management is something that we're going to have to deal with for our entire life. Knowing how to control your attention is something you're going to need for your entire life. Having self-belief and knowing how to set goals and having confidence is something that you're going to need your entire life. So these aren't just like for school things, they're for your longevity of your happiness in your life, pretty much. So I'm very interested in understanding what is the best way of conveying certain information for people to understand it. And the best part about working with young people is that they're so hungry for information because they don't know what they're doing a lot of the time, and they want to be told, what is the information? Help me. And they're sponges and they take it in, and it's really, really beautiful to work with.
So you have a big responsibility, because
Absolutely.
What I love about the fact, I love that you describe yourself as you didn't really quite reach your full potential.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that you could see what others see in you. But anyway, that's a thing for you. So, but I think there's this big privilege, I guess, that plays out in being able to, and I know that you really feel it. Like, you don't just do it. It's not just a job for you. I know we've talked about this. You really feel the sense of possibility that you unlock.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? What are you hearing as you're interacting with some of these young folk?
Just that they really want the help, especially. Actually, sometimes I don't want the help. Especially in the mindset module, there's things that we do on self-belief and understanding what our weaknesses are and kind of being self-aware. And students are so unaware because they haven't been asked these questions of the weaknesses and also the strengths, which is never spoken about. That's something I really try and consciously bring that into all my sessions, is just affirmation, which is something that people as in general are just starving for. It's just like, tell me that I'm doing the right thing, and like we're just guessing all the time. We only get told when we're doing the wrong thing, and there's so much fear associated with that, because then you get rejected from and you don't have belonging if you get the question wrong, right?
Right.
And so no one tells you, yep, you're doing a great job, keep going. You should be proud of yourself for this. You're good at this, and people just have no confidence, which plays like an avalanche effect in the real world, because people don't have the confidence to actually speak, to say anything, because they're like, do people actually want to listen to me? Do I have anything good to say? Am I worth it? Am I worthy of being heard? Right. And it's so sad. It's so sad to see this generation, or a lot of people in general actually, just without confidence.
I don't want to preempt, but I know
Yes.
you've had an epiphany recently, Adam, and
Yes.
you've just shared it with us in such a authentic way around
Yes.
this concept of strengths. I know
Yes.
you spent a lot of your time, and I'm not going to say in your youth, but you still are in your youth, but
Yes.
in your previous chapters of your youth, really in this kind of a spiral of weakness. Tell us a little bit about it, if you don't mind
Sure.
sharing.
Yeah. So I realized that certain habits of mine were getting in the way of me becoming my best self. And these were kind of like this shadow, like these negative kind of things which are disagreeable. And I realized I was giving a lot of time to distraction and allowing myself to do that because I was scared of trying because I didn't want to fail. And so I got rid of social media. That was the first step. And I realized that like targeting my other side, like my bad side, and working on my bad things,
Your lesser strengths.
my lesser strength, should I say, can be really beneficial. It can really help change your life, right? And so I did that a lot. I spent a lot of time looking around in like my own psyche and pulling out like these dark things and being like, okay, what are you? How can I fix you? Trying to get to the root of it, which I think is important to be able to get to the root of negative things so that there's no feedback loop, right? It's like a weed, you know, if you don't pull out from the root, it's going to grow back, right? And so I did that a lot, but it's a dark place. To live in that and always look at what's wrong with you is not healthy, and it can really create this darkness. And also it created this kind of false sense of like worth within me. So I was like, I'm doing all these things. I'm looking at my own self.
How good am I? Because I'm
am
like
I?
really going to smash my bad self.
Exactly. Build
Yep.
this huge ego, and it's a lie, right? So that was a negative part of that. And then I had a big experience when I realized that like that is not how I need to be living. Like it's necessary if these things are getting in the way, these negative habits, deal with them, absolutely. But in the meantime, focus on what makes you beautiful, what makes you good and human, and what you're good at, and then nourish that and embody that as much as you can. Because if you're in the darkness all the time, it's cold. You know, you want to spend time in the sun and feel the warmth of what makes you human. So yeah, it's really important to kind of accept those things and be in that consciously.
Just always taken aback by how such a young man is, you know, able to articulate things in such a positive, powerful way. So thank you. I'm keen to, you know, quickly explore with you the role of parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a parent myself. I'm, you know, a helicopter parent at times,
Mm-hmm.
but I know you play in the world, or you work in the world of kids and parents and their relationships. How are you seeing that present and the role that parents are playing in terms of their kids?
Yeah. I'd like to first preface this by saying I have my own biases about parenting based on my own upbringing. And I'm not an advocate of the helicopter parent, or just authoritarian kind of figures as parents. But I do appreciate that it is necessary sometimes because they're
Well, you've got to give structure. You've got to give your kids structure. That's important.
Absolutely.
Yep.
People can't live in chaos. So, and that sometimes needs to come from the parent figure, or mostly will come from the parent figure. But in terms of studying, I think that it's important for the parent to be positively and healthily involved without the kind of reprimanding and the negative aspects of it. Lots of more positive reinforcement, giving affirmation, helping out, taking time. I know it's not easy for parents to take time to help kids study and stuff, but being around that environment and helping them nurture that educational space, because every time you're in the mindset of learning, you subconsciously will remember that for the next experience, right? So there's all these kinds of like these preconceived ideas of what the educational space is, and then you go into that again and you think, okay, am I going to have a good time or am I going to have a bad time, subconsciously?
Right.
And so if you can encourage that from an early age, especially during high school and stuff, and teach your child that this is a healthy place, this is a safe space, this is a fun space to learn. It doesn't matter about the results, it matters about what you're learning, how can you apply it to the real world, which unfortunately we don't get tested on the real world, you get tested on a bunch of stuff that people figured out hundreds of years ago that aren't relevant, and we don't learn how to apply it anymore, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
But the parent-child interaction, I think it's hit and miss. It's hard to kind of figure out as a parent what's working, what you should be doing, and you kind of need to trust that how are your actions, being conscious, how are your actions affecting how your child is going to develop.
Because you've told me, Adam, offline that you see parents, some toxic relationships between kids and parents, where kids that don't even want to set small goals.
Yes.
Because they're so afraid of letting their parent down.
Yes.
Or failing even at that little micro goal.
Yes.
They won't set goals.
Yes.
I mean, that is just this complete lack of belief in yourself. It's very confronting.
It's really sad. It was really sad. Yeah, I did have a student who was just petrified of failure and couldn't even set a goal, physically couldn't do it because he just went into shock and had panic, even about the smallest things, because he was just so worried about failure. And he holds high standards for himself. And I don't know.
Perfectionism?
Sorry?
Some perfectionism.
Absolutely, yes. But I think there's parents and there's also the student as well, because if you're innately intelligent and you're very good at schoolwork, not to say that that's not the only form of intelligence, but if you're good at schoolwork,
right,
and then you don't learn adversity in the educational world, it's the same thing with entitlement. So you think you're entitled to good grades, right? And so when you get a bad grade, it is the end of the world, right? So you think, I'm not going to be recognized as a good student, I failed, all these kinds of things. And then you develop this negative relationship with failure, which is not failure, the first
learning, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it just develops and develops, and there's more pressure and pressure and pressure. And it develops psychiatric illnesses in a lot of people that aren't recognized, like young people on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, which is ridiculous. I think it's an issue for sure.
And honestly, what a conversation. Thank you.
No worries.
Very much for being on this planet, but also for joining us today.
Thank you for creating this space.
Yeah, viewers would have learned a lot from you today. I certainly did, as I always do every time we converse. The fact that you are such a young man but have so much wisdom is incredible. Thank you for joining us, Adam, and hopefully you'll join us again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Viewers, what an incredible young man. I think we are in good hands. And thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.